Good afternoon, everyone. Microsoft Ignite is the favorite time of the year for Team Windows Server. We really get a lot of joy out of coming here and interacting with you, not only in these big presentations and demos, but also in one-on-one discussions in the booth and in the expo area, really getting your feedback and feeling the energy of the community. So this afternoon, I'd like to start with a big thank you for being here and sharing this moment with us. 2019 has been an amazing year for us. Just a little over a year ago, we've launched Windows Server 2019 at Ignite. And along with Server 2019, a number of other server products from Microsoft also launched. System Center, Exchange, SharePoint. And at this Ignite, we're GAing SQL Server 2019. Later in the year, we announced Azure Stack HCI. Azure Stack HCI is a member of the broader Azure Stack portfolio from Microsoft that we announced here at Ignite. Azure Stack HCI is our hyper-converged solution. Azure Stack Edge is our cloud-managed appliance. And Azure Stack Hub is our cloud-native integrated system. Together, they cover all the needs for hybrid and edge, from edge computing and IoT, to high-performance virtualization, to data sovereignty, and in a matter of connecting and disconnected scenarios for the edge. We've also launched later in the year Windows Server Containers for Azure Kubernetes Services, which helps you modernize your applications on Azure. Windows Server 2019 was built to bridge your on-premises data center to the cloud. It added additional layers of security and helped you modernize your applications and your infrastructure. It's only been over a year, and we already see millions of servers in the world running Windows Server 2019 on physical servers, VMs, and containers, both on premises and in public clouds. And it's great to see the different stories of customers that have already started adopting this technology. I'm starting here with the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. So this is the first museum of its kind focused on human rights. And they have the vision of delivering the most digitally interactive experience on the planet. They serve about half petabyte of data across 500 screens throughout the museum. And from the beginning, in 2014, they had this vision that they wanted to deliver the same experience on premises inside their galleries, as well as online through the cloud. Because of that, they chose Azure Stack HCI solutions. And you see in this quote here from Christopher Rivers, we clearly needed a hybrid solution, but we wanted to use the same toolset, administration, and training for both platforms. And Microsoft checked all boxes. That's a very common story that we hear throughout the Windows Server 2019 customer base. And we really want to thank you, the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and our partners, DataON, for allowing us to share this story with you. SQL Server 2019 launched this year, like I said, at Ignite, this show. And it takes advantage of a number of Windows Server 2019 features to achieve greater scale and better security. Last year at Ignite, we demoed Windows Server 2019 using persistent memory with Intel Optane DC. SQL takes advantage of that to increase the number of concurrency and scale using persistent memory. They've also taken advantage of secure enclaves to protect the computational inside the SQL workloads, allowing greater protection and reducing the risk for malicious access to confidential data on premises. Similarly, Exchange Server, also built for Server 2019, is able to achieve greater scale and better security. So with Exchange Server 2019, they're able to serve up to 48 cores and 256 gigabytes in their mailbox server, supporting for the new modern servers out there. They're also boosting security with the new security capabilities that are built into Windows Server 2019 and making them on by default. Windows Admin Center has been a great journey for us together. We've brought together a number of traditional server management tools into a modern browser-based remote management app for Windows Server. It is a great tool to manage pretty much any version of Windows Server, whether it's running on physical servers or virtual servers, on premises, in Azure, or in any other hosted environment. It's a great tool for remote troubleshooting and debugging, and now it runs over 3 million servers under management, monthly active servers under management. Today, I'm very excited to announce Windows Admin Center version 1910. Let's take a look. All right, what did you think? In addition to the capabilities that we ship, we also partner with the ecosystem to bring new features through extensions to the Windows Admin Center. So here, we're announcing 2 new extensions for Admin Center from Dell EMC and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise that joins updated extensions from Lenovo, DataON, and others. And we see partners continue to add value, adding ways to manage your hardware along with the software so you can get a full holistic view of your admin needs. When we build Admin Center, we really focus on 2 things. We focus on streamlining everyday tasks, and we focus on connecting to Azure for hybrid. So when you look at the innovation that we're bringing forward with this new release, that's what it's centered on. So we spent some time talking about the new features, starting with streamlining everyday tasks. The first thing we've done is we took a tool that's used by many of you to troubleshoot servers when you have performance issues, the performance monitoring tool, and we reimagined that tool with a brand new graphical interface and ability to customize views. We also took complex processes like deploying Azure Stack HCI, which requires usually multiple steps, and made it really easy with a wizard-like experience, where you can go through step by step without having to read dozens of pages of documentation. We've also are enabling end-to-end live migration with Hyper-V servers and clusters. And based on your feedback and the feedback from the community, we've enhanced and added a number of new tools to Windows Admin Center. And to show you a little bit more about one of the capabilities of Windows Admin Center, 1910, I'm going to invite on stage Cosmos Darwin.
Thanks, Bernardo. Hello, everyone. As the administrator of Windows computers and servers, you deserve great tools to understand how apps, devices, and features of the operating system are working. And when something's broken or slow, one of the most trusty, versatile tools that you have are Windows performance counters. Unfortunately, the user interface for looking at performance counters, Performance Monitor, or perfmon.exe, well, it used to look like this, and let's be honest, it still looks like this. Well, today, that's about to change. Show of hands, who has used Performance Monitor before? Yeah, everybody. All right, well, buckle up, because I think you're going to like this. In Windows Admin Center version 1910, you'll see a new tool with an old name, Performance Monitor. Let me show you how it works. The first thing you need to do is choose the counter object that you want to monitor. Now, you've seen this before, this big, long list of counters that you have to scroll through. Except now, you don't have to scroll anymore because you can just search, and it filters and finds the counters that you're looking for. Yeah. Next, you pick an instance, and you pick the actual counter that you want to see. And just like that, in a couple of clicks, you have an interactive graph right here in the browser streaming the real-time data for that performance counter. It has all of the modern affordances you expect, like you can resize it, the axes adjust, there are tooltips. One of the important scenarios with Performance Monitor is comparing different counters. And I can absolutely do that here. I can add a second graph with a different set of counters, for example, memory counters to compare against performance for processor. Now take a look at what happens here. I'm going to select the page faults counter that I'm interested in, and notice that Performance Monitor understands which other counters I'm probably going to want based on my selection, and it highlights those for me so that I can easily choose them. I'll pick a couple more and add them to the graph. Now, if we fast forward a second so that we have a full screen's worth of data, look at this. I can browse all of the graphs at the same time with this beautiful shared hairline across the graphs. I have effects like I can hover over a legend to see a particular series very clearly, all in this intuitive and visually engaging way. If I want to look for a correlation or inspect a particular point in time, I can pause the graph and go in and take a closer look. I can highlight a particular series. I can even expand the graph vertically so that I can get a little more space to see what's going on here. And I can really perform the kind of analysis that people use Performance Monitor for. When I'm done, I can resume. Now, so far, everything I've showed has used the line graph. But we know that there are times when you want to see every counter from every instance all at the same time. And so that trusty report view that we know you love is still there, and you have all of the same richness, all the same data that's been available forever in Performance Monitor. And once you arrange the view just the way you want it, with the graphs and the counters that you care about, you can save your workspace so that you can easily get back to it later. So say I'll name this one Cosmos' troubleshooting view, and you'll see on the landing screen of Performance Monitor, you can see now your own saved workspaces down at the bottom, and of course you can create as many of these views as you need. They're automatically shared across all the servers that you manage with Windows Admin Center, and you can share them with other people like your colleagues as well. So that is just a quick look at some of what's in the new Performance Monitor. What do you think of what you've seen so far? All right. If you're as excited about this as we are, you can try it today. It's available right now as part of Windows Admin Center version 19.10. It works with Windows Server and Windows 10, the latest version and some older versions, in the cloud and on-prem. You deserve great tools, and we want you to have them. Thank you very much. Back to you, Bernardo.
All right, thank you, Cosmos. So now we're going to talk, so we talked about streamlining everyday tasks, so now we're going to talk about connecting to Azure for Hybrid. That's the other pillar for Windows Admin Center 19.10. So today at Ignite, we announced Azure Arc. And if you were in Satya's keynote, you saw some demos and the great things that we can do with Azure Arc using the Azure portal and Azure to connect with on-prem resources. And with Windows Admin Center, you're able to do that with one click. We also enabled the connection of on-prem resources to Azure Security Center, enabling you to have an end-to-end view of security and threat monitoring in your environment across resources in Azure as well as on-premises. We've connected with Azure Monitor to give you alerts when you have performance issues in your environment, for example. And we were able to add extension for on-premises server networks and subnets so that you're able to migrate apps without losing the IP dependencies when you do that transition. So these and many more Azure services are now available through the Windows Admin Center interface. And if you want to see what that looks like, so this is what it looks like in the Admin Center. So we added a tool for Azure Hybrid Services. When we click there, you have the full menu of services available to you to take advantage of Azure to enrich your on-premises environment and make your lives easier. One of those tools, like I said, is the ability to connect with Azure Arc. And Azure Arc enables a number of use cases. One of the key use cases is the ability to organize and govern across environments, including Azure and on-premises environments or any other cloud. It enables at-scale Kubernetes and run data services anywhere. So today, we wanted to show how to use Azure Arc with Windows Server to organize and govern across environments. And for that, I'm going to invite on stage Jeff Guzzi. Jeff, come on in.
Thanks, Bernardo. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here. Hey, quick show of hands real quickly. How many people in the audience use group policy? Anybody? And look at every hand in the group. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was a sea of hands went up there. So think about it for just a second. Group policy is awesome when you're managing in a domain and you're managing Windows. But what happens when you're in the cloud or in the multi-cloud, or if you're trying to manage Linux and non-domain joined machines? Wouldn't it be great if there was a way that you could apply policy and governance to all of your resources running everywhere? And by everywhere, I mean in Azure, on premises, in your own private clouds, in AWS, in Google, so that you could apply a policy and guess what? It goes everywhere. Azure Arc is about providing a consistent control plane for the cloud at planetary scale. So if you saw the keynotes today, you saw data services, you saw Kubernetes. In fact, I was just over an Aaron session demoing OS services, but I was showing all of it from Azure. What I want to show now is actually this from Admin Center, of course. All right, so here I am in this line of business application here. And you can see right now, I'm going to go ahead and switch on over here to Azure Arc for Servers. And you can see, I'm going to click on Get Started. And right here in Admin Center, I have the ability to do everything I need to do to actually onboard this OS instance. I can do all of it right here from an Admin Center. So I'm going to click on Get Started here. I'm going to click on the Azure subscription. I'm going to choose my resource group. I'm going to choose the region, Western United States. If I use a proxy server, that option is also available for me. I can go ahead and click on that and go ahead and say, all right, let's go ahead and set this up. Now, right now, we're setting up Azure Arc for Servers. And what's happening right now is we're downloading the agent, we're installing the agent, we're registering the server with Azure, we're making all of this available, by the way, in just a couple clicks. And I never left the context of Admin Center, because the goal here is to make it as easy as possible end to end. So now, I'm over here, and if I want to view this server in Azure, well, guess what? Hey, no problem. Let's actually view this server in Azure. So the way we do that, head on over here and actually click on the link in Admin Center, of course, because of course it's going to take you to the exact right location in Azure. And here I can see there is that line of business application. And in fact, take a look. It appears as a blade in Azure. There's no special, it actually appears just like another resource. And so now I can see the operating system, I can see the agent version, I can see access control. For example, if I want to do things like apply identity access management in RBAC, I can do that, even though this is actually a VM running on Azure Stack HCI right now. This is not running in Azure, but it appears that way. And again, it could be running on Azure Stack HCI, it could be running on another virtualization platform, it could be running in AWS or Google. Because again, we're applying Azure Arc-enabled systems here. And so if I want to do things like apply tags, if you do internal billing, well, now I have the ability to say, okay, let's actually put a cost center tag with this. So this VM is actually assigned to this specific cost center, and when I need to do a billing, guess what? I can actually find all of my resources in the cloud and on premises using these same set of tags. So we're giving the ability to do all of this in one location. Finally, let's switch on over to policies here. And policies is what gives you the ability now to say, hey, I want to apply this policy globally. If I, for example, want to be able to find all of my OSs, wherever they reside, that have certificates that are going to expire in the next 60 days, I can simply apply this policy with Azure Arc to any and all of my OS instances, and it will find this for me, and I can remediate. So think about what you've seen here. You've seen the ability here to take Azure Arc, onboard it very quickly and easily from Admin Center. It was literally a couple clicks. I never left the context. When I was ready to go to Azure, I had the context to click, took me right to the portal. And now I have the ability to apply policy on OSs and VMs running on premises on Hyper-V or Azure Stack HCI, even other private clouds, even AWS and Google. It's about providing a consistent control plane in the cloud with Azure. This is Azure Arc. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So now I want to switch gears and talk about hyper-converged infrastructure. And what I wanted to do is to start talking about Azure Stack HCI and what it is. Azure Stack HCI is essentially the combination of the software you already know, Windows Server 2019. Everything is included in Windows Server 2019. With the easy to deploy and management that comes from Windows Admin Center, including the new deployment scripts that we've launched with Windows Admin Center 1910, combined with industry-standard pre-validated hardware from our partners. Today, we have over 150 solutions from over 20 partners, so you can get one of the solutions anywhere on the planet for virtually any price point you're looking for. Here at Ignite, we're announcing 5 use cases for Azure Stack HCI. When we work with customers and partners and look at what are the top use cases they have for Azure HCI, this is the list. Branch Office and Edge with IoT Edge, VDI, high-performance SQL workloads, trusted enterprise virtualization, taking advantage of all the security features from the hardware as well as the software stack, and scale-out storage. We worked with our partners to pre-validate solutions against those scenarios. So when you go into the Azure Stack HCI catalog to browse those 150 solutions, you're able to filter by these solutions so we have hardware that's tailored to your scenarios. Our partners are working together with us on solution briefs that make it really easy for you to deploy, all with the goal of reducing the complexity and making it really easy for you to go and get going with Azure Stack HCI. Back in September, Storage Review ran a benchmark and compared Azure Stack HCI with a number of other solutions in the market. And I'm pleased to share that we were the Editor's Choice. We won the Editor's Choice Award. And this is one of the quotes here from the article. Microsoft's Azure Stack HCI solution proved to be simple to deploy, easy to manage, and exceptionally performant. These are things that we hear constantly from our customers that are trying Azure Stack HCI. And in this case, Storage Review says this is the fastest they've seen in a mid-market 4-node HCI cluster. And you might be wondering, who do they compare us with? Here's what it looks like for SQL Server IOPS throughput against vSAN. Azure Stack HCI was 6 times faster, and that's why we won the award. And if you want to take advantage of this, you want to deploy it in a really easy way, and to show you how that's done on the new Windows Admin Center, I'm going to invite back on stage Cosmos Darwin. Cosmos.
Thanks, Bernardo. Hello again. Hyper-converged infrastructure is rapidly becoming the normal way to deploy servers on premises. And that means it needs to be approachable for everyone, from Fortune 100s to small businesses. That's why Azure Stack HCI is available on over 150 solutions. Whoever your preferred vendor of servers is, we are working with them to build solutions for you. Because we know that infrastructure is never one size fits all. And to illustrate that point, I'd like to tell you about one of the newer solutions that's very cool. This is the Lenovo ThinkSystem SE350 Edge server. Inside, it's all server-grade parts. It's got an Intel Xeon processor, DDR4 error-correcting memory. It's got dual 10-gig networking that's iWarp RDMA capable, and from 4 to 8 NVMe SSDs in each server. If you've been following Storage Spaces Direct over the years, then you'll recognize that this server is perfect for hyper-converged infrastructure. And it packs all of this into a form factor that is so light and small that you could conceivably put it in your carry-on, fly to Microsoft Ignite, and walk on stage with it in a shoulder bag, and the audience might not even notice. In fact, this is the SE350. This is the future of edge computing: compact, connected, rugged, and running Azure Stack HCI. And to deploy my very own hyper-converged infrastructure, all I need is 2 of these. I don't even need a high-speed switch. I can connect them back to back using crossover cables. Let me show you now just how easy this can be to set up. We begin in Windows Admin Center version 1910. You'll see at the top there's a new solution called cluster creation. We can actually use this to deploy all different kinds of clusters, including a classic failover cluster. But for this demonstration, we'll choose hyper-converged infrastructure. You'll notice that the workflow takes the form of sort of a multi-stage wizard, so it's going to guide me through every step of the process. This first screen gives me some prerequisites, like I have to install Windows Server, fair enough. And next, I'll put in the credentials that I'm going to use to manage these machines. There are my creds. Now I'm going to point Windows Admin Center at each of the servers that I want to use to create hyper-converged infrastructure. In this case, I've named them Edge HCI 1 and Edge HCI 2. Windows Admin Center goes out and finds them, and you can see they're both running Windows Server 2019, and they're both SE350 Edge servers. At this point, if there were any Windows features that I needed to install for hyper-converged infrastructure, I could do so with one click, but in my case, they're already installed, so the next step is networking. As I mentioned, each of these Edge servers has 2 10 gigabit network adapters, and there's also a 1 gig that I'm going to use for management. This is important because it means Windows Admin Center will connect over that adapter, and I can safely reconfigure the other ones without risk of losing connectivity. On this screen, I can input all of the key properties of the network adapters that are between these 2 servers, like their IP address. I could provide a VLAN ID if I need to, but in this case, everything looks right. Next, it's time to create the Hyper-V virtual switch on each of these servers. This is actually a fairly sophisticated step behind the scenes, but you'll see it doesn't need to be complicated. You do have access to all the advanced options. They're there, so you could turn off VMMQ or change the load balancing algorithm if you felt so inclined, but you don't need to because all the defaults are already set to what Microsoft recommends. So I'll click Next, and we'll create the virtual switch on each server. Next, it's time to form the cluster. Validating the cluster runs a comprehensive suite of checks to make sure that these servers are suitable for clustering. In this case, you'll see that they are. I set it up so that we get a warning just so that I can show you. You can download a full report of everything that we checked. You can also just browse its contents directly here in the browser. So you'll see the warning I got is that there's an update that I could apply. But for this demo, that's fine. I can continue. I'll give the cluster a name, like Azure Stack HCI, and then I'm ready to create the cluster. This will go out, it'll enable the cluster service on each of the machines, it'll form them into one Windows Server cluster, and when that's done, all I have is the final stage, to enable storage. As I mentioned, you'll see each of these 2 Edge servers is packed with 4 NVMe SSDs. You can actually add 4 more as well. This is perfect for storage spaces direct. At this stage, I could clean them if I needed to. This is helpful if you're deploying over and over again on the same hardware, but in my case, it's a new system, so I don't need to do that. And all that's left then is to enable storage spaces direct. I'll click, and you'll see this takes a moment because it's doing actually quite a lot. Behind the scenes, it's taking those NVMe SSDs from each server, combining them into one software-defined pool of virtually shared storage. But once it's done, that's it. I've deployed my very own hyper-converged infrastructure using these 2 Edge servers in just a couple of clicks and a couple of minutes. What do you think? I am really proud, on behalf of both Microsoft and Lenovo, to announce that this entire solution you just saw, all the innovative hardware, the software, the services, everything you need for an Azure Stack HCI starts at just $20,000. We know that for branch office and Edge, the per location price point is really critical, so we're really proud of that. You can find the SE350 and over 150 other solutions at microsoft.com/HCI. And you can preview the deployment workflow that I just showed. The documentation is at aka.ms/deployHCI. And with hyper-converged infrastructure, it's general purpose computing infrastructure. You can use it to run any app or any virtual machine that you want on Hyper-V. And now, to tell you more about accelerating application innovation, please welcome my colleague, Taylor Brown.
All right, thank you. So I'm looking out at a crowd of Windows Server fans. Just to take a bet that a lot of you are running Windows applications. Applications on Windows Server, yeah? Well, when we talked to IDC, they did a survey last year, and 72% of on-premise workloads ran on Windows. Probably not a huge surprise to this room, not a huge surprise to me. But in addition to that, when we look at Stack Overflow, over a third of all applications written are using C#. Not including VB.NET, not including C++, just C#. These are applications built for and running on Windows Server. Still today, over a third. Just for some additional context, ASP.NET. This is ASP.NET running on Windows Server. 26.3% of developers surveyed in Stack Overflow in 2019 were building applications using ASP.NET. When we look at the back end and middle tier services, .NET is 37.4%. Again, this doesn't include C++ and Java and other things that also run on Windows Server. All of this to say we have a huge amount of applications written for and running on Windows Server, running enterprises today. Which is why we've been working on Windows Server containers so hard. This is our platform to help with app modernization, to deliver faster innovation, the ability to run applications where you need them to run, when you need to run them there. We've been on some of these journeys with our own teams. The faster the developers can put things into production, the faster they can fix an issue and see that customer have that experience, the happier they are. Our teams that have been able to innovate faster through rapid channels show higher survey results and job satisfaction, and their customers are happier. Containers can help you do that. A couple years ago, Gartner put out a survey and said by 2020, 50% of enterprises will run mission-critical, containerized, cloud-native applications in production. That's a couple months away, and I think that number's low. What we're seeing from customers over and over again is the acceleration of moving their applications into containers, into production. And larger companies are leading the way on this. A survey that Heptio did, 77% of enterprises with over 1,000 developers using Kubernetes were running it in production today. Or actually, in 2018, last year. That's how fast they're moving through this. And why? Well, when we go survey companies using Kubernetes, 42% said it was about portability. I can move the application from my on-prem data center, my private cloud, into public cloud, back onto private cloud, into a different public cloud, wherever I need it to run right now. 45% said scalability. Coming into the holiday season, I suspect some of you work with e-retailers. You know what's about to happen. You got to scale up, meet that demand, and then right after Christmas, you got to scale right back down, right? Containers can help with that scalability. And then agility. We talked about the value of agility a minute ago. Containers are a huge component of how we can deliver agile solutions. Which is why we have an Azure Kubernetes service. It makes it super easy for you to get started with Kubernetes. A couple clicks, you can have a Kubernetes cluster up and running. This will accelerate your application development, and of course, it's built on the enterprise foundation of Azure, combining that with Kubernetes, giving you an enterprise-grade container orchestration solution. And that can be run anywhere in the world. We added Windows container support into Kubernetes earlier this year, and it's in preview now. And this allows you to have a node pool of Windows containers and a node pool of Linux containers side by side running under the same control plane. This means that you can co-locate your applications. You can have applications comprised of Windows, applications comprised of Linux. And increasingly what we're seeing is people start to do modernization. They expose a new web service out of that Windows container, hook it up to a Node.js application that might be using Linux. Away they go. That application was just reborn. That investment is continued forward. Now let's just take a quick look at this in the Azure portal right now. So here we've got a cluster that I created earlier this week, Taylor B Ignite AKS1. It's a Kubernetes service. We can see that it has 2 node pools, and we'll dig into that. We can see we've got a Linux node pool and a Windows node pool. These are actually 2 different VM sizes, because node pools allow you to customize not only the operating system, but what VM size you're using. So you can optimize your Kubernetes deployment for whatever purpose it happens to have. Now we're going to go into the Azure Insights here and get a little more information about what's going on. So we can see this loads up, and it's going to give us information like our CPU utilization, memory utilization, all sorts of metrics that you would expect to see from Azure Insights. But we can also go over to this Deployments tab and see what's running on this Kubernetes cluster. Now we can see that there's a bunch of different things that are running as part of the Kubernetes system, things that do stuff like scaling, networking, and we've got an instance of our application. Now I'll pull this out, and it's called iBuySpy, and we can just get a little information about it. What it's running, we can see how many replicas it has, that it's got a rolling update strategy, all the things that Kubernetes provides for us. Now this application is pretty basic. It's one that we lifted and shifted from a previous conference several years ago, and we've put it into a container, and we've got it running on Azure now. And just to prove that, I can click around a little bit, and we're going to be announcing this fully tomorrow, but I'll give you a sneak peek now. We've integrated all of the logging right into Azure Insights. So now I can go in here and I can actually look for something like 404 errors. So I can see that someone's been calling junk.aspx and trying to get to my page, and that's all just fully integrated right into Azure Explorer. And the reason it can be done that way is we just simply connected through a tooling set that we're calling Bridge Tools, the output and the logs from IAS directly into the container ecosystem. So whether you're using Azure or any other log analytics that can integrate with Kubernetes, those logs will just show up naturally for you automatically. Some really cool stuff. Really excited to be talking about it some more tomorrow. Now that's all great. Let's see what a customer has to say about all this. So we've got a great customer that we've been working through the preview with, 3Shape. They do CAD/CAM automation. Their quote, "We believe that AKS Windows container support could be a game changer for the adoption of our use of Windows containers. Some of our code only supports Windows, and having a great container platform which is reliable and easily manageable is of great importance to us." Resonate? Yeah? So we've been on a journey with Windows containers. It started back in 2016, went through a couple different semi-annual channels. We've increased the agility, we've reduced the size of the containers, we've added new tools, we've made it easier for you to integrate on them. That's continued with version 1709, or 1903, sorry. And I'm really excited to be able to announce version 1909. Our next semi-annual channel release will be coming out very soon. In your hands, you'll be able to use it wherever you use containers today. We're going to continue this trend of innovation. Your feedback drives that. Please continue to give us your feedback. That's what prioritizes these features in our semi-annual channel, and that ability for us to deliver agility to you. And with that, bring Bernardo back up, and he can talk about what's next.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
All right, we're at the final stretch here. So I couldn't really finish this presentation without reminding you that Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 is going out of support January 14 of 2020. And we want to make sure you actually take advantage of this great innovation that we talked about today, but also not get into compliance concerns or get into a situation where you're not getting security updates. So there are a number of options that you have available to you. One is migrating to Azure. By migrating to Azure, you get free extended security updates for 3 years, which gives you more time to go and modernize your application in Azure. You can also upgrade on premises and take advantage of all the innovation we talked about with Windows Server 2019 or Azure Stack HCI. Finally, you're also able to buy extended security updates and run them on SQL Server and Windows Server. So looking forward, we have had insider builds of Windows where you see previews of new features every 2 weeks. We also have our semi-annual channel, and Taylor talked about this, where we have innovation coming in on a semi-annual basis. And then we also have our long-term servicing channel. And we've released Windows Server 2019 last year, so you do the math, And you can see that there is a new version of Windows coming at some point in the near future. And here at Ignite, we're going to be showcasing a lot of the work that we're busy in Redmond building for you in the next release of Windows Server. There's going to be previews of GPU partition, stretch storage spaces direct, bridge tooling, Windows on AKS, see more about that, extended networking, Windows Admin Center, and more. And in order to learn about all these things, we couldn't demo them all today in this section, but we have a number of other sessions that we'd like to invite you to go and attend and learn about what's coming with Windows Server vNext. There are 4 call to actions for today. First, download and use Windows Admin Center version 19.10. Hopefully you saw a lot of exciting new features today. They're going to help you accomplish your everyday tasks and take advantage of hybrid capabilities with Azure. Adopt Windows Server 2019 and try it on Azure. Deploy Azure Stack HCI, taking advantage of the easier deployment scripts. And get ready for Windows Server 2008 and 2008 R2 end of support. Now, I started this presentation saying that we're very grateful for the community. And I wanted to end this presentation extending a big thank you from the Windows Server team back at Microsoft and invite you for a customer appreciation party that's going to happen tomorrow night. And there's one thing you need to do. Everybody's invited for the party. There's one thing you need to do. You need to go into the booth, the Windows booth, talk to one of our people, and get registered for the party. So word on the street is that Jeff Woozy is going to sing again at the karaoke, and I really look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.